What's this? A new Minecraft video on Salty Puglord's channel? What? That crazy son of a bitch hasn't made a Minecraft video in over 5 years. Yeah, this video is, as the title says, about making an iron farm with the Create mod. It's absolutely no coincidence that well-known Minecraft YouTuber Captain Sparkles has actually done his own Create series. I was directly inspired by him to check out the Create mod. Really, I just wanted to see if I liked it. As the title says, I wanted to make my own iron farm early game, no breath. So let's get in, we can take a look at the machine, let's get going. So, welcome to my little hobbit hole. Just a temporary little room I carved out of the stone while I was setting things up in the early game and hadn't built a house yet. A couple things before we move along here. One is that I don't claim that any of the machines that I make are pretty. Aesthetics was never a goal. I make machines that do things and that work in the way that I want them to work. I don't claim that I'm some kind of great expert or that I'm an artist. I'm neither. I'm brand new to the Create mod. Just wanted to make something that I wanted to make as I wanted to make it. Another thing I need to talk about is sort of the philosophy of how I built this machine. I made this machine so that all of the downstream stages are faster than the upstream stage. So the very first stage in the machine is the slowest stage, and every subsequent stage gets faster. This is kind of the opposite of the way most people do it. Most people would have the first stage be the fastest and have buffer elements to buffer extra stuff. I didn't want to do it that way because I never wanted there to be any chance of my buffer chests or buffer storage filling up. Some quick numbers here, as I've shown on the signs here. My cobble generator to make 64 cobble takes 95 seconds. And my millstones, which I've got 2 millstones, and I'll show you how that works in a second. In order to mill 64 cobble, 1 millstone would take 164 seconds, but since I have 2 of them running in parallel, it only takes 82-ish seconds. And then the wash plant, as you can see over here, to wash that 64 gravel only takes 31 seconds. So every stage of the machine is faster than the previous stage, so it can never get backed up. All right, let's actually go outside. We can go look at the machine. We'll pass by my giant spruce trees on the way. You like those? I'm so new to Create. I haven't actually set up either a wood farm or a kelp farm yet. And also, here's my windmill that I set up, and I'll explain that in just a second, but before we get to the rest of the machine, let's just start with the most basic part here. This is just a very, very standard cobblestone generator. The only thing that's interesting about it is that you've got a Create mod mechanical drill here, drilling out the cobblestone and dumping it onto this belt for further processing. And I think it's worth noting at this point that because I am so early game in Create, I don't have steam engines or anything like that yet, just water wheels and windmills. But if you look at this water wheel, you can see it's actually generating 320 SU, or stress units. That's like the unit of motive power in the Create mod. Most people, when they make these water wheels, they put them vertical, and without soul sand to make a bubble column, you can really only get about 256 SU out of a water wheel, but if you put them horizontal, and you set up the paddles in the correct direction and your water source flowing around and touching the paddles on 8 of the 9 squares around it, then, I'm sorry, 7 of the 8? Hang on, check this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, yeah. If you get the water going around the paddles, catching the paddles in 7 of the 8 squares around the water wheel, then you can get the full 320 SU. And in this case, for this cobble generator, it actually does make a difference. When I tried this with a 256 SU water wheel, it took this cobble generator 211 seconds to generate 64 cobble. At 320 SU, which is 25% more, for some reason I got a huge speed up, only 95 seconds to generate 64 cobble. So, go figure. I don't understand why or how, but this generator is much faster with only 25% more motive power. Okay, so there's this belt here that takes the cobble up to the next stage, which is the milling stage, which is powered by the windmill. These are what are called enclosed chain drives. This is a Create mod, and The thing about these is that unlike if you were to put two gears here, they would necessarily have to spin in opposite directions because one would turn the other one the other way. With an enclosed chain drive, they both spin in the same direction, as you can see from the shafts right there. So it causes both belts to move in the same direction instead of the belts converging or diverging. You can see I've got a whole water wheel here just to run this belt, which is frankly spectacularly unnecessary, but again, I didn't make this machine to be optimal or to be pretty. I made it to do what I wanted it to do, which is what it does. So clearly, if you want to make a machine that's more optimized or just prettier or better in your opinion, by all means do it. This is just the way that I did it because I wanted to do it this way. So the cobble comes up here, and it dumps off into this andesite funnel, which dumps it into this chest. And then there's two andesite funnels. So that andesite funnel up there, you can see the down arrow. That means that this funnel is inputting into the chest, whereas the outward arrows on these two mean that this chest is outputting into the two millstones here. Now, you can see each of these millstones is actually running at 512 SU, so 124 SU total, which is what my windmill is supplying. And of course, it's got all these ridiculous reduction gears all the way running over here to get these to run at the speed I want them to run. Here is the wash plant, and this is something from the Create mod called bulk washing, where you blow blocks of water with these what are called encased fans, and they actually blow water onto things and transform the things. In this case, the gravel block on the belt has a 1 in 4 chance of turning into a piece of flint, or a 1 in 8 chance of turning into an iron nugget. So you're throwing a lot of gravel in here, but it's not a very high chance of anything coming out. There are actually 5 fans blowing these little blue particles on here. There's 2 on each side blowing across the belt, crosswise, and there's one down there at the very end that's actually blowing directly toward us. These ones that are blowing crosswise are only spending 40 SU of power because they only need to blow like 1, 2, maybe 3 blocks at most. That one back there, though, is running at 80 SU because it needs to blow maybe 5 or 6 blocks up this way. Let me go down to the far one and we can look and see. So here's this far one. You can see that's running at 80 SU. And of course the whole thing is being powered by another water wheel down here running at 320 SU. These guys, of course, the 2 over there, they take 40 each, so that's 80 for that side. Likewise, the 2 on the right take another 80, so we're up to 160. And then another 80 here, 240. I'm not using the full output of the water wheel. You could set up this water wheel to only be running at 256 SU, and you'd still be fine. And let's take a look at the output of the wash plant. This is the output belt. You know, down in there, the little blocks of gravel are actually being washed. A lot of them turn into flint, which isn't very useful, because this is supposed to be an iron farm. But occasionally, one of them will turn into a little iron nugget. And then the iron nuggets get dumped into this basin. Whoop. Occasionally, you do get a piece of gravel in there. Go throw these back on the belt. Maybe we can see it bonk. Are there enough nuggets in there to make it bonk? No? It just bonked a little while ago, so I guess not. Jeez, that was like 5, just in that little short space of time. Let's see if this one does it. 'Cause it should take 9 nuggets. You can see this is a basin. There it is. Bonk. And there goes the ingot up here. So, yeah, you've got a basin. This is another Create mod thing, and it's got a recipe filter so that it only creates iron nuggets. So, they're easy enough. And then this thing I think is called a press, or mechanical press. And again, you've got a water wheel supplying the full 320 SU so that this thing will bonk and turn those nuggets into iron ingots up here. So we had that little interesting thing over there where we had sort of a divider that would divide stuff between 2 mill stones that are milling it. But the real interesting thing about this is, how did I make this filter system over here that filters out, doesn't filter out the nuggets, lets the nuggets go right on through, but when a piece of flint is on the belt, it pulls it in, and then dumps it out here on the other side into the lava. What is this little thing, and how does it filter stuff without brass? Because normally you need brass to make brass funnels. These are gray, they're andesite funnels. Well, it turns out this thing is called a toolbox, and I'll talk about toolboxes in just a second. Night is about to fall, and I had better go to sleep. And then we'll talk about how I did that sorting system without brass. Okay, so back to where we were. Those get sucked in here. Iron nuggets do not. And then, of course, it just gets dumped right into the lava. So, what is this thing, and how is it acting as a filter with no brass included? So, that thing is called a brown toolbox. And as you can see, it does require gold sheets. It requires a chest and a cogwheel and a piece of leather, but no brass. Just gold and leather. And so what these toolboxes are is they're exactly what they sound like. They're little things that you can carry around. They're small containers. And if I right-click on this one, you can see what I've done here is I have put pieces of flint in all these different tool slots. And then I took the flint back out, and now it still says flint. However, there isn't any flint in it, because all the flint that comes into it gets instantly dumped out by this andesite funnel into the lava. So I tried a whole lot of different things to like make a filtration system that would separate out iron nuggets and the flint, and this is the only thing that I could find that is even slightly going to work without brass. I also want to emphasize that I did not come up with this idea, and frankly that the people who did are a lot smarter than me, so let me give some credit where credit is due. There's a guy, I think his YouTube channel name is Sixth Scythe, and he made a no brass early game storage system using exactly this technique, using these brown toolboxes as item type filters without brass. So I will drop this link in the description, and if you want to see how this works, cool, go for it. I think it's a really neat aspect of Create Mod. I think it's one that almost nobody knows about, and it's one that I think should be more well known. Incidentally, the version of Create Mod I'm using is 050B. It's perfectly possible that the mod authors might take out these toolboxes because they don't want you to be able to filter items off a belt without making a trip to the Nether to get the blaze burner that you need to melt the brass and create your first brass. So just be warned, everything I'm showing you in this video is for Minecraft 1.18 and for Create Mod 0.5.0. Alright, let's go back and then I'll talk about one more thing, maybe two. So first of all, as you can see, this is a relatively large machine. It's taking up most of this little cliff. Now, certainly the windmill could be made smaller. You could use a vertical wind turbine, or you could just there's 8 sailcloth per blade there. You could totally take off half of each blade, take 4 sailcloth off, and make a 4-bladed windmill, 4 blades, 4 sailcloth each. That would absolutely work. I tried it. I actually did it that way. It produces exactly the same 1024 SU, the same rotation speed coming out. It works exactly the same, but it's, you know, at least 4 blocks shorter. You could make it at least 4 blocks shorter, maybe even more than that. If you want to make this with a vertical windmill or with just a reduced size horizontal windmill, you absolutely can. And of course, if you arranged all the different things differently and put them in a different order or fed them together better, fit them together better, you know, of course you could totally do this in a more compact space. I was just trying to do this as a first project in Create to teach myself how the Create mod works, and essentially just did it for fun, for laughs, for giggles. It's definitely not optimal. It's definitely not pretty. Neither of those things were the goal. The goal was just to figure out how to do it without brass, period. And lastly, probably a lot of people who are experienced in Minecraft are saying, like, geez, why'd you go out to this trouble when you could have just used a vanilla-type farm with villagers and iron golems? And yeah, after going through all the trouble that I went through to make this, I absolutely agree. A vanilla-type farm with iron golems and villagers is going to be way easier than doing all this. But again, I did this for fun, to teach myself about the Create mod, to learn how to use all these things, you know, belts and mechanical drills and mechanical presses and basins and chain drives and gearboxes and, you know, all that stuff. So this was just a for fun project. It was not supposed to be serious, but I did learn something really cool along the way, which is how to use these brown toolboxes, do item filtering on a belt without having to have brass, without having to go to the nether, get a blaze burner to make brass. So that was about all I wanted to say. I will be happy to answer questions about this in the comments. However, I do feel like I need to warn you that if you understand Create Mod, this stuff that you're seeing here is probably pretty simple. And if you don't understand Create Mod, it's possible that no amount of explanation that I give you will possibly be able to explain what's going on. There's a Zen saying that for those who understand, no explanation is necessary. For those who do not understand, no explanation is possible. I feel like the Create mod's a little bit like that. If you understand how Create works, you can look at all this stuff and say, oh yeah, that's super obvious, except maybe the toolbox filter thing. Whereas if you don't know Create mod, it's like someone who doesn't know what an internal combustion is seeing a Formula 1 car and going, how the hell could that possibly work? In any event, hope you're staying salty, my friends, and I will see you around.